Today, we're talking about AusGAP, the new turf accreditation program that's being adopted by all Lawn Solutions Australia members. In a moment, we'll go through the program in detail. But first, I wanted to talk to you about why we're doing it and what's in it for you. Before we start, let's get one thing straight. This isn't yet another set of rules and regulations being imposed on you to make your life harder than it already is. Nor is it us telling you how to run your business. When you start to dig into the detail of this, you'll see that it makes a lot of sense. You'll also realise that it covers things that, in most cases, you're already doing. And if you're not, we'll work with you, not against you, to help you get up to speed. So, what's the point of it, you ask? In a word, credibility. AusGAP will give us a big edge over our competitors who don't have it. By setting this new benchmark and promoting it widely, we'll establish AusGAP as the gold standard in turf production and supply. Ultimately, it will change the way turf gets specified and how customers make their purchasing decisions. But don't make the mistake of thinking AusGAP is an exercise in smoke and mirrors, a flimsy marketing tool. We're serious about bringing a consistent level of quality to the turf market. These new benchmarks are high, but they are achievable. So, just what is AusGAP? It's a set of minimum standards that cover all aspects of turf production, from growing and harvesting to delivery. AusGAP accreditation not only helps protect the genetic purity of our key turfgrass varieties, it provides assurance to our customers that every step of the production process has been undertaken to the highest industry standards. AusGAP combines the best of local knowledge with the core standards of the International Turfgrass Genetic Assurance Program, known as ITGAP, a quality assurance program used throughout the USA and other parts of the world. In fact, our new accreditation system is more involved than the ITGAP program on which it is partly based. AusGAP covers 4 components of our business. The first is turf production and harvesting. This includes planting, paddock management, fertiliser programs and harvesting, and the record keeping that goes along with each of these activities. The second is turf quality, delivery and installation, with a particular focus on turf quality and criteria for product to be saleable. The third is business compliance. This is about achieving and maintaining the highest standards in plant and machinery maintenance, workplace health and safety, chemical use and storage, licensing and insurances, as well as staff training. The fourth and final component is marketing and customer service. This covers things like branding, customer service and product warranties. Right now, you're probably asking yourself, how much extra work is this going to mean? And is it going to be too hard to put in place? Well, we don't pretend for one moment that gaining AusGAP certification is quick and easy. To offer real value, there needs to be some effort on everyone's part. But let's go back to what I said at the outset. Most of what's in the documentation covers things you're already doing, or should be, to comply with the many tiers of existing business regulation. A good way to think of AusGAP is as a filing cabinet. It's where you keep all the existing sign-offs and records that keep your business on the right side of government. The other good news is that the bulk of what you need to do in terms of ticking the boxes to achieve AusGAP certification is based on self-assessment. We won't be watching over your shoulder at every turn or coming after you with a big stick, but if you do need help in some areas, we'll certainly work with you to get you over the line. So, let's get to the nitty-gritty. An AusGAP Certificate of Accreditation will be awarded once a certain level of competency and compliance is achieved and will be renewable every 12 months. There are 5 steps in the overall certification process. Step 1 is self-assessment of your operations against the AusGAP criteria and reporting to AusGAP on your levels of compliance. Step 2 is for AusGAP to assess the information received from you and all the other participating growers to work out a compliance score. Why are we doing it this way, rather than just setting a compliance score up front? Well, we want to take into account where everyone is on their individual compliance journey regardless of the size of their operations. This way, we can come up with a fair score that can be applied across the board. Step 3 is the awarding of initial accreditation based on your self-assessment against the compliance score. If you fall below the compliance score, we'll work with you on the areas you need to improve to get you over the line. Step 4 is a site audit, where we come out and confirm your compliance with the AusGAP protocols. Step 5 is the final certification based on the outcome of Step 4. Again, if you fall at this final hurdle, we'll work with you to get over it. We recognise that this system can't be implemented overnight, but our aim is to have you complete and return your initial self-assessment within 6 weeks from today. We then aim to roll out the remaining steps, culminating in full certification for all participating growers by July next year. We know Lawn Solutions Australia growers are highly professional operators. That's why they're part of our network. And that's why we think most will achieve certification without too much trouble. To give you a clearer picture, let's have a look at some examples of AusGAP accreditation requirements. Take the first item in the AusGAP manual, land requirements. It says that land being used for turf production must not be prone to more than a 1 in 5 year flood event. Now, we don't expect you to produce local government or meteorology records. You know your land better than anyone, and if it were flooding more than once in 5 years, you probably wouldn't be in business today. So, we accept that you can confidently sign off on its flood-prone status. Let's look at another example, this time from the turf crop planting section. Here it says that all newly planted areas must be treated with a pre-emergent program, and if requested, you need to submit it to AusGAP for approval. The key words here are if requested. We know that most newly planted paddocks are treated with a pre-emergent program of some kind or other, so the request for information is only going to be made if there is a problem. For example, if your customers are complaining about weeds in their deliveries. Other than that, you'll comply with this requirement simply by recording the pre-emergent used and the date, something you're probably already required to do by legislation. Similarly, when it comes to the stock used for planting out new paddocks, there are provisions in place to ensure we get true-to-type grasses. The documentation asks that all initial stock be sourced from either a certified foundation farm or the grower's own pre-certified stock. Again, compliance here is simply a matter of recording the relevant information. Let's now take a look at an example from the section on turf quality, delivery and installation. AusGAP asks that when harvested and palletised, turf needs to be 100% visually free of other turf varieties and visually weed, disease and pest damage free. If this isn't already the case, then it should be looked at fairly quickly. An on-site inspection and tick-off on the checklist by AusGAP can quickly verify this part of the accreditation process. How about the business compliance section? Well, this section covers things that you more than likely already have in place, like a workplace health and safety policy, for instance. AusGAP requires that you meet the minimum standards of relevant WHS legislation. If you do, you simply tick the checklist. Again, if you aren't compliant, we can work with you to help you meet these requirements. When it comes to marketing and customer service, there's nothing in the AusGAP manual that would scare you. For example, under the product warranty section, it states that every delivery must be accompanied by the relevant product warranty certificate. Again, this is something you're probably already doing. So if that's the case, just tick it off the checklist. So that's AusGAP in a nutshell. Don't be overwhelmed by the accreditation manual. Take your time to go through it, and you'll soon see you have many, if not all, of the requirements already in place. That being the case, it's simply a process of collating and checking off everything to gain accreditation. Even if there's some work you need to do to get up to speed, you'll find it's worth it in the long run. Over time, AusGAP is going to transform the Australian turf industry. And to ensure this transformation takes place as smoothly and quickly as possible, we're investing heavily to get AusGAP adopted by industry and embraced by end users. For those of us who adopt AusGAP, it will give us unmatched credibility and the ability to promote our efficiency as a group to the market and end users. It will guarantee the genetic purity of our turf products and assure our customers they are getting what they pay for. A turf that is true to type, supplied in a healthy condition and guaranteed to perform as promised. So let me leave you with one last thought. Don't think of AusGAP as an additional burden on your business. Think of it as an opportunity. And remember, we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to help you sell what you do.